Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series Austin. We are here kicking off the second half of the round of 16 as we move forward to crown the champion of our second WCS circuit event. Hello, hello, I'm Nathanius, joined on the desk by the only two men who could match better than a pair of Zerglings coming out on a one-base all-in. It's In Control and Fear Dragon. And we are about to also take a look at my personal favorite player, and I think someone that you probably like a lot, Ravi, and Jeff, actually. We got our American coming in. We got our American coming in as Neeb, Fear Dragon.
Neeb, it's awesome. It's great to see him. He's obviously been doing very, very well today.
Has he, though?
Nate set you up for that one, but it felt weird. It was like, Neeb, it's good to see him here. I like him.
I'm famous for my interview questions, so I was just, throwing the line out.
Hey, that used to be me, though, to be fair. I was the guy who was like, I want to ask this question, but it comes out 7 sentences, and the Korean is like, what did you just say? And I'm like,
I was getting ready to interrupt you and say MaNa, because MaNa is also a really awesome player that I think a lot of people are fan favorites of. He's been around for such a long time in the scene. He was actually the first player I became a fan of way back in the MaNa versus Nama day from a super old DreamHack in the finals.
The first?
Yeah.
With StarCraft, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were diving into the ancient hieroglyphics of cheese, bringing up Nama's name here, but those were some
I miss Nama. He was so funny.
Matches. Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
There's a funny story there, but it affects my ego too positively for me to bring it up on broadcast. So let's just take a look at the schedule/bracket
You're so humble.
that we have as we are winding our way through this tournament here. Hero Marine stands among 3 Zergs, like a scene out of Alien or something. He has so many monsters to destroy if he wants to get to the grand finals. And on the bottom side, it's a bit more spread out. It's not a complete Zerg fest, but pretty much still kind of.
Did you just call Lambo a monster?
Yeah.
Nice. I think you might be the first one to refer to Lambo as a monster.
I'm sure he appreciates
it.
Yeah.
Well.
So. I'm not saying he's not bad, but I don't think anyone's like, Lambo? The monster of Germany, you mean?
Yeah.
All right.
You might say that Lambo is going Rambo on this tournament bracket right now.
Okay. The next match is Neeb versus MaNa. We have some Protoss versus Protoss. It's a best of 5. Neeb is that player who was the talk of the town last year, has barely had a mention other than by Nathanius at this tournament, and we haven't seen any of his games on the main stage. So is he going to flop out? Have we seen any of his other matches? How are we feeling about Neeb?
He dropped a game to, gosh, I was just seeing that. Was it nice?
I think it was nice, unless I'm misremembering the bracket.
I want to say it was a Zerg that I was looking at, but maybe nice as well. But it's kind of the Neeb tournament, though. That's the kind of funny thing. I think back to last year with his WCS wins. There was the one tournament where he just dominated and didn't look back. But a lot of the other ones, he took second in the round of 3 group, kind of tripped up and fell here and there. That's kind of the Neeb way, a little bit more bumpy. He was always the better one, but Cyril's the one that's just like, oh, he dropped a map. Wow, it's a big deal.
And MaNa's a legend that's been around for a long time. He's been competing for years and years, and he has had several championships. We've seen him perform very well in WCS. He
even managed to actually do pretty well versus Neeb about 2 months ago in the BTSL, the Base Trade TV Star League. And he's honestly it's so weird because if you watch his stream, he always talks about how bad his PvP is. He'll face off versus Showtime or something on the ladder. It's like, oh man. But then he ends up beating Showtime. I'm like, during this ladder session, you were like 4-2 or 4-1 versus Showtime. He's like, man, I always lose to Showtime. I'm like, I do though.
That's just the theme of don't listen to pro games.
Yeah.
Every one of them, all of them.
So we do have our players ready to be introduced on the main stage with Smix bringing out the Protoss and our American Neeb. Is everybody hyped to see him, Smix?
Let's hear from them yourselves. Wow, that is an amazing sign right there. Great coordination. I need you to win. I love the creativity here, but as Nate mentioned himself, it is going to be a Protoss versus Protoss. Give it up. It is MaNa and Neeb.
There you have it, the deep guttural roar from the crowd of Neeb coming out as these players take their seats. He's always done well in Austin. Some amazing series have been played here. And MaNa, a player that's, you know, had those ups and downs that definitely, I think a lot of people would say be an upset if he's able to take this.
Yeah, arguably, and I'm so glad that you brought this up about Neeb. It's kind of his history at Austin, because this is sort of where the premier Neeb sort of started coming out. Back in 2016, he got to the finals. He faced off versus Hydra, and he ended up losing that finals, but that was his first deep run. After that, it eventually went on to Kespa Cup. He came back in 2017, won the event, and now he's here and returning and hopefully looking to say, you know what? I know that Serral's looking really good right now in Leipzig, but this is my tournament.
Yeah.
I can't help it. Like, Neeb interviews, I want him to say that too, Fear Giant, but he does. He's like, no, Serral's the best player. I'm just hoping to give good games. And you're like, but do you think? And he's like, no, top 2 is good for me. They're just very cerebral about it. I agree with you, though, and I do feel like MaNa, unfortunately, falls into that kind of stepping stone category right here. It would be a huge upset if he won. But MaNa, who actually his last big championship win was in front of a Polish crowd, is no stranger to the fact that when there's a crowd behind you, even in a game like this that's not so physical as some of the, you know, real sports, I suppose, it still matters. It's a big deal. There is momentum in this game, and being in front of this crowd, they're cheering for Neeb.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about a lot, playing in front of that home crowd, as you mentioned. I think some of the more interesting stories we used to have would be when we have the tournaments in China, and those players would come up and really stand up well. But wanted to get into a little bit more, but it's all good. The game is ready, so we're going to get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for MaNa versus Neeb.
Neeb versus MaNa. This is going to be an incredible match here. The last 2 Protoss players in the tournament duking it out to see who's going to make it through to the quarterfinals.
Team Liquid versus Ting. We are hopping into Lost and Found for game number 1 of this round of 16 matchup as we're looking at the main base of our American Protoss. Guys, make some noise for Neeb.
And his opponent down here in the bottom left-hand side, hailing from Poland. An absolute hero of the scene with so much history behind him. Representing Team Liquid, it is MaNa.
It's really good to see MaNa in a round of 16 again. It's been a while. He struggled with motivation quite some time ago, roughly a year ago. He just wasn't playing as much StarCraft. But it really seems that recently he found his joy back into the game. I feel like he's playing more than ever. He's been streaming quite a bit, participates in a lot of online tournaments as well. And it's really paying off, man. MaNa making it into the playoffs through some very tough groups. That's really a testament to how strong he's playing.
He really has been turning it up a notch. He's a player who we often talk about as being very clutch, incredibly good at playing in these dicey situations when things get down and dirty. But especially when he's behind in the game, there's one guy who often makes comebacks happen, and that is MaNa. Very good at being very wily in the game, and also someone who sometimes pulls out some older styles. He's usually not just following the current meta.
Yeah, he has a lot of weird builds in PvP as well, where he will pretend everything is normal, and then suddenly it's a 3 gateway aggression with the robotics facility, where he only makes a warp prism. He just uses the warp prism to pick up a couple of gateway units and to get some offensive warp-ins going. I'm expecting Neeb to be the more defensive player throughout this series, because being the aggressor is always risky, and I think that MaNa is more willing to take some of those risks than Neeb is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Kev. You know, we've seen in the Korean meta a lot of players just kind of like rushing out DTs, lots of Stargate openings coming out. But I think Neeb is a guy who definitely kind of plays that more defensive Protoss versus Protoss. We are going to be seeing Stalkers from both sides. And that probe of MaNa's will go down. Neeb going to get his probe out of there a little bit ahead of time.
And look at that, that's already a robotics facility for MaNa, and he's getting 2 sentries as well. So this is a weird opening, guys. Like, this is not something you see very often in PvP. Now, he's sending out a probe, so there is a chance that maybe he does still go for a very defensive expand. Neeb can obviously go with the Oracle here, guys, but Phoenix is actually very good as well, especially if your opponent makes 2 sentries. But knowing Neeb, it's a little more likely this is going to be an Oracle first.
Yeah, 2 sentries coming forward, but they're not the best, especially in these sort of volley fights. Neeb with some good micro just gets a bit of damage on MaNa's hit points, backs off out of there to regenerate. And definitely Stargate going to be the more flexible opening. Neeb does have the later expansion down, but he's already up a couple of probes. So, you know, often people get a little bit too focused on the Nexus. If you're not building probes consistently out of that, I mean, Robo and Immortals, that's a very expensive choice. So he's going to have a little bit less economy.
Yeah, this almost gives me the idea that MaNa does want to push quite early in this game because he's getting all these sentries and a quick Immortal as well. But Neeb is getting a little aggressive here in game number 1. He's trading quite well when it comes to HP. He's going to be able to pick off this pylon, and he's going Phoenixes, which I really like to see, because a Phoenix could potentially lift up that Immortal, and multiple Phoenixes are also very good against sentries now. Force fields do go down, both units will bleed out one unit. What was that, what they just cancel? It was extra...
I think that was just an extra pylon back there. It may have been a shield battery, but I very much doubt it, especially after seeing the sentries. And actually trading a Stalker for a Stalker favors Neeb there. Force fields are going to be so key with this push. The way this push can work for MaNa is you go to the front of their natural, you try and trap their units with your force fields. Meanwhile, your Warp Prism is like just a free evacuation for any units in the low hit points.
I feel like Neeb should continue making Phoenixes though. Phoenixes are very good in higher numbers because you can pick up sentries, and sentries die very quickly because they take extra damages. You don't want to use too much of that energy. This is actually good for MaNa. As crazy as this sounds, guys, Neeb using this energy is actually good news for MaNa, because MaNa's already running to the other side of the map, and if those Phoenixes don't have energy, they won't really be very useful during this battle. The only thing they could possibly do is maybe put some pressure on that Warp Prism.
MaNa has completely cut probe production right now, so he has got to commit to this push. He wants to find the damage. You're absolutely right, Roddy. If those Phoenix can find the Warp Prism, it'll be helpful, but there's already so many units coming in. The batteries aren't quite ready. They're starting to finish up here. Nice defensive force fields from Neeb.
Yeah, I don't know though if I like this for Neeb. Like, yes, batteries are fantastic, but if he can never pressure the Immortal, eventually you're gonna run out of energy. Neeb just needs a few more units. So far he's handling this quite well. Batteries are very good. It seems like MaNa is like, okay, that didn't go that well. The gates were just a little bit late. He's getting a few more units, but this is really where MaNa needs to start doing the damage. He has that Immortal. This is where that Immortal needs to shine.
That Immortal does a massive bonus to armor. It will do huge damage against these Stalkers if it can get in range. But nice pick off there. Does get the Adept. Saves the Sentry. MaNa here still looking for more damage. He started up probe production behind it. He's adding a Twilight Council. The addition of Adepts, of course, does add the opportunity to shade into the main if he wants to. But Neeb's defense has been solid. The shield battery is getting very low on energy, but the disable on the Immortal there.
Yeah, the Immortal obviously is going to get activated. Good save there by MaNa. But Neeb's defense is excellent though. He's been up 10 workers during all of this. He didn't underreact. He went for the 4 batteries. At first I was afraid he wouldn't have enough gateway units, but Neeb did a really good job in keeping all of his units alive, obviously because of those shield batteries as well. And Neeb will probably look at this game like, that was pretty good for me. I know that I'm economically ahead. I saw you had no probes in your natural with my Phoenixes. So this is actually a good game for Neeb so far.
Now he can explode into trying to gain some map control. He's got the 2 base economy fully up. A Warp Prism on the way out. Adepts snaking their way down the south side of the map. Neeb wants to try to get some more pressure, but also scout what his opponent's up to. And fascinatingly, he's actually going to be going for Resonating Glaives behind this. That tells me Neeb says, you know what? I think I'm ahead. I'm just going to leverage that into a huge army, and I'm going to try and push you. Maybe when you move out for the 3rd, but maybe even before then, just crush through the natural with the massive Adepts.
I think that MaNa still has quite a few sentries, correct? And obviously Adepts, I mean, look at that. That's 4 sentries. If you shade on top of that with a bunch of Adepts with Resonating Glaives, just like Phoenixes, Adepts will also do extra damage on top of those sentries. And if your opponent goes very heavy on the Immortals, it's actually very nice to do some damage with your Adepts on top of Immortals as well. As Neeb is going to go for his first arrest, it's a little bit risky, but I actually think it's going to pay out at the same time. Adept shading into the natural as well. Neeb is all over the place and is definitely finding some damage.
2 prongs hitting at once. These Adepts, though, do get cleaned up. Just 2 worker kills. Has to evacuate from the main. The shield battery doing a good job. But Neeb now has all the information. He sees the unit count building up. More Stalkers being warped in for MaNa. And behind this, the Templar Archives is down. The 3rd base is on the way.
I think Neeb could have done a lot more with the Prism in the main, but I think he's very worried about the timing of Blink. Since this game has been a little bit strange, he didn't know if MaNa had Blink or not, and obviously you don't want to lose an Immortal and a Prism, so I guess Neeb just played it very safe there. He could have done a little bit more damage. It's really funny that MaNa is actually getting as aggressive as he is with all these Blink Stalkers, as Neeb was probably planning on eventually attacking as well with those Adepts with Resonating Glaives. This is kind of funny because I feel like both players want to be aggressive, but it's MaNa who's going to be the real aggressor at first.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't that many Adepts just yet. Nice force fields from MaNa, actually trapping a lot of those units. We're going to see Neeb start to use some hot pickups, trying to evacuate these units, but his Nexus is already almost gone.
Oh, those force fields are magnificent by MaNa. That's a risky forward blink. He did get the Prism, though. I don't think there was too much in it, but one Immortal does go down very quickly. The second Immortal on the right goes down as well. And now these Stalkers have a lot more micro potential than these Adepts have of Neeb.
Those force fields are just brilliant. Even those last ones zoning out that Immortal. And Neeb here, he was looking so good earlier on in this game, but suddenly you called it there, Roddy. Adepts aren't that great against Stalkers in a frontal fight. Without the Immortals to back them up, the maneuverability, the blink micro here is going to be a lot of an advantage for MaNa. But a lot of batteries still here on the natural with the Archon coming out. That is going to be quite powerful. The unit's getting wedged behind the force fields a little bit. This is such a good arc for MaNa.
Yep, the arc is good for MaNa, but Neeb does have a couple of those batteries to fall back on, but he ends up losing his one Immortal as well. And that Immortal was very important to actually get some finishing blows on those Stalkers. As long as it's only Adepts and Stalkers, I think Neeb is going to have a very tough time killing these Stalkers with Blink of MaNa. It seems like MaNa's potentially going to go for a play into the main base.
Yeah, if he just elevates, he can blink every single Stalker up there. And how do you get back up there to defend as Neeb? You've got to go through this tiny choke point.
He's going to try now. He's not going to go for it. He felt like maybe it was a little bit too late, so he's just going to evacuate. But this is still good. You empower a couple of gateways. What a game by MaNa. It really feels like he's hitting all the anti-timings, but it wouldn't be a MaNa game if it somehow works.
Yeah, I mean, MaNa's all about the micro. He's all about finding a way when it doesn't seem like it should work. And behind this, going up into the Disruptor tech, he is going to be expanding to the third, getting more and more fresh mineral patches for his workers to mine from. You can see here Neeb struggling to defend this main base. This main base already terribly oversaturated. His mining and his income is getting lower and lower. Meanwhile, MaNa's is starting to increase.
Now, Neeb does have one thing going for himself, and that is that he had an upgrade advantage, but I love this Robo Bay. MaNa obviously has picked up on the fact that those Adepts have resonating glaives because, you know, the color changes of the Adepts. It's a patch that went through a couple months ago. Got you. So obviously a couple of Disruptors are fantastic. If your opponent is sitting there with like 7 or 8 Adepts and you fire 1 or 2 of those Purifier Novas, Adepts are not that fast, so it's almost impossible to split them. I love everything that MaNa's doing at this point.
Brutal play. But Neeb gonna hit before the first Disruptor's out. That Disruptor, I guess, it should be out in time, but only one Disruptor, not necessarily gonna be a game changer. Of course, Neeb can micro forwards to absorb those shots, but hey, MaNa back in Neeb's main base with a double Immortal drop. One of the hardest drops to deal with in this matchup. Those pylons gonna go down so fast.
I think he might actually have to recall though, because I would love to see those Immortals still. He does have that Purifier Nova. This one Disruptor can really ruin that entire army of Neeb. He did recall those units, but he recalled them to the wrong base. That Purifier Nova does not connect with the Adepts.
Only hits an arc on there, and the Disruptor gets focused down as well. This time it's Neeb's turn to take a good forward position. The Adept's gonna shade on top, and these Stalkers cannot contest this army in pure damage. Now that the Immortals have all gone down, there's only one left on the right-hand side. Neeb in big powerful position here. MaNa in trouble. His Disruptor shot gets a few Adepts, but his Stalker count is so low.
He needs to take care of those Immortals, and that's what he finally does, but it seems like the Adept count is a little overwhelming. However, there is still a Disruptor. That's a massive hit for MaNa again. That cannon is helping out a lot as well. The shield batteries are helping out a lot. MaNa's army is dwindling though, but he has a lot more micro potential in his army than Neeb has.
This is such a decisive timing here from Neeb. Pushing in, MaNa not able to deal with it. Even this, oh my gosh, the friendly fires. The Disruptor tries to clean up those Adepts. The Pro Bosses have been massive. The third's about to go down, and even if MaNa can defend this, he is in big trouble.
I think MaNa is actually sort of holding though. He has picked up most of the units, just Adepts. I don't see these Adepts killing all these Disruptors. That's another great hit. What a hold, I think, by MaNa. Yes, he lost 27 workers, but I think there is so much potential in his army right now. You look at what Neeb is going for himself on the other side of the map. He's going back into Phoenixes, which I think is a very smart move, because it's the only thing he can truly do.
Well, he's lost literally his entire army. He's got 1 Adept, 1 Phoenix, and a Sentry against 8 Stalkers and 2 Disruptors. This is a scary moment for the army supply of Neeb.
Neeb just needs to crank out Immortals. The moment he has 2 Immortals, then it becomes all very doable again. These disruptors are very scary. I don't think you want to make any more adepts, though. These adepts are just not going to get the job done against these disruptors of MaNa. What a game so far, Big.
Oh, that disruptor shot is big. 2 adepts and knocks a lot of hit points off that Archon. Being very careful with the disruptors, though. Doesn't want to throw those shots wastefully. That one not finding the mark, but if he can keep warping in, these cooldowns are much quicker than the disruptor used to be.
That's a good force field, but the disruptor will get saved. But at least Neeb got a stalker there. And obviously every second that goes by is a good one for the American Protoss, because he does still have that 12 worker advantage. He just needs a few more Immortals. The Archon does get picked up though, and that army of Neeb suddenly looks very scary, and he may have to evacuate this base.
Yeah, MaNa's force here is just so monstrous. When the disruptors are able to push you back like this, suddenly it's so hard to avoid those shots.
Well, the Adepts are going to shade behind the disruptors. Forward Blink is going to take care of this one Immortal. Kind of whipped on that one disruptor shot, but Neeb, it just doesn't seem like he has enough units over here.
So decisive from MaNa. Jumped on that Immortal, he focused it down. The probes being pulled into the action, but once again, this Prism just does not let these disruptors go down. They are constantly alive. Neeb knows he cannot hold, and MaNa, wow, taking an impressive Game 1 victory.
One of the most fun games I think we've seen so far this week, and a very weird PvP with a lot of sort of anti-timings, right? That first move out, the Immortal, the sentries, the good hold by Neeb, and then when Neeb is gearing up for potentially a big attack with Archon, Immortal, and a bunch of Adepts, suddenly MaNa is attacking him with Blink Stalkers, and it just turns into madness, Big. It looks like MaNa has it, then suddenly Neeb counterattacks, and he's doing tremendously well, because MaNa recalled his 2 Immortals and a couple of those gateway units on the north side of his main army, so those Immortals got picked off, and then suddenly he didn't have enough firepower to deal with the few Immortals of Neeb. But I really think that single cannon and the 2 batteries is what kept MaNa alive in his natural.
That cannon was just shooting over and over again. You know, I thought too many probes were going down, but it did turn out, of course, the third base survived on red hit points for MaNa. He was able to transfer the workers, and it's those messy games where sometimes MaNa just finds a way. When he's working with just a small unit set, he is unlike any other player. He recognizes those situations. The force fields pushing into the third were godlike. That was such a huge advantage he gained there. I can't imagine many other players having the gumption to push at that moment.
I was shocked. I totally agree with you. I cannot believe that he was able to push in with those Stalkers into 3-4 Immortals it was. And also there are sentries on the side of Neeb. So those battles are freaking awkward. And a lot of Protoss players truly hate force field against force fields. Like, hey, I like force fields against Terran and Zerg, but things become really weird when we both have force fields, because now half my army can't shoot while I'm force fielding you out of. But MaNa handled that situation very well, and I think he said it a couple times. He is so clutch. If he sees an Immortal and he can get it, he doesn't do it. He's the European patience, man. He just blinks forward and he gets those Immortals. But that's really important. If you play with Blink Stalkers, you never want to let your opponent get 5-6 Immortals, because then you can't do that anymore. But as long as it's 2-3, max 4, but you can isolate 1 or 2, you can get away with plays like that. That was a really fun game.
A great way to start off this series, and this has been a match I've been very excited for, because I looked at it and I think there's a few people out there, more than a few, cheering for Neeb, no doubt. But I think MaNa, I mean, you look at his head-to-head, he's taken him down many times in the past, and he's got a good start off to this series here. We're going to be launching into map number 2. It's going to be Dreamcatcher, representing Ting, hailing from the US of A. Down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the blue, your Protoss player, he is Neeb.
The 3-time WCS champion of 2017. Going up against this man that did make it to the finals of WCS Season 3 2015. Back then in Poland, he didn't win it, but he had a fantastic run. And this is also a great run for him so far. Representing Team Liquid, it is MaNa. Of course, won a DreamHack back in the days, won an ESWC as well. And then it was silent around MaNa for a while until we had that fantastic run in 2015. And after that, it's been ups and downs. Every now and then he shows us some greatness, but there were times where he was enjoying Heroes of the Storm a lot as well. Maybe a little too much, Big. It was kind of hurting that MMR, but it seems like he's truly back, and I'm impressed, man. I really did not think that MaNa was gonna come out this strong at this event.
Hey, man, he went soul-searching in the Nexus. He came out with a bit more passion. He knew that StarCraft, he knew that Protoss was definitely the race for him. There's no carrier unit in Heroes of the Storm just yet, so...
He always played Probius, though, I believe.
Yeah?
So he stuck through to Protoss. But
Okay, all right. He was always staying true to his main bay, but I mean, it's something where MaNa, it's just, he's got so much history with the game, and sometimes it's nice for a player to take a bit of a refresher, take a bit of time off, and he really has come back with that renewed passion, and he's got that fire in his eye once again.
Curious to see what the openings will be for both players. I really would have loved to see Neeb make a few more Phoenixes in that previous game. And I know that's funny coming from me because some people say like, you always want to see more Phoenix. That could very well be true. But in that previous game, I think it makes a lot of sense. If your opponent opens up with 3-4 sentries, that means there is no blink. If you open up with 3-4-5 Phoenix, you can just fly in, you can lift those sentries, and there is simply nothing that your opponent can do against it. Because if Stalkers don't have blink, Stalkers are not that great against Phoenix. You truly need to have that mobility to truly contest the potential harassment and the potential power of Phoenix. And Phoenix in straight up fights is also very good. Once again, this is a Stargate versus a Robo. I don't see MaNa playing in the exact same way as in that previous game, because I simply don't think it's very good on this map. But this could very well be a Robo into straight up 3-gate aggression. So no Immortal, just Prism, and MaNa goes for it.
We have seen a Sentry coming out here early, so Neeb wanting to get up 100 energy for a fast Hallucination Scout, and going for a Stargate once again. What do you think about a... Oh, he's actually... MaNa's using the whole position trick on that worker.
And he's also doing that, he's warping in that additional gateway. I think this is straight Prism. This is something that MaNa likes to do every now and then. You don't open up with the Immortal, it's straight Prism, and he's just gonna run to the other side of the map. He's not expanding. Neeb doesn't know this. Neeb is getting a shield battery, and that is very, very important. And one thing that's nice for Neeb is that this map does have a ramp. So that is a small disadvantage for the Prism aggressor, because you do need that Prism for high ground vision, and it becomes a little bit harder to run up that ramp. But it's very important for the American Protoss to identify there is no second base for MaNa, and that this is happening. I'm sure he's familiar with the build, and he needs to see this.
He's going to spot that Prism with the Hallucination, and he's going to need to immediately get some more defense at home. He's got to be chrono boosting that Warp Gate. Immediately starts up a Void Ray. The Oracle getting caught!
No! Oh, that's really rough. The Oracle takes so much damage. It does live. Unbelievable, with 4 HP, and Neeb is getting a defensive Void Ray, and you just need to get as many units as possible right now. He goes for additional sentries. I think first he thought about defending in the main. He's like, nah, I should try to keep my Nexus alive. He's gonna... I would actually love to see the Oracle go to the other side of the map, though. Does MaNa have a shield battery in his base?
Oh, he actually burns a force field trying to defend down there. He didn't have the second force field ready, and now he evacuates. Has pulled probes here as well. As long as he doesn't lose his main base, of course, he's still in the game, but definitely could be contained for quite a long time.
It's very important that MaNa has a battery, so that means that this single Oracle will not be able to get much done at all on the other side of the map. So what are you doing right now if you're Neeb? I think you just have to sacrifice... Oh, you have to sacrifice your Nexus, and look at this. MaNa's getting his own Stargate. Did Neeb scout this? Oh wait, MaNa canceled the Stargate. Now he goes Twilight.
Goes Twilight now after being scouted, so doesn't want to go for the surprise Stargate follow-up. But MaNa here with an insane Stalker count, starting to warp in the sentries. How do you ever get out of this contain? I mean, MaNa can just expand now, and he knows that Neeb cannot get down this ramp.
Void Rays are very tricky units as well. The Prism does get picked up. The Void Rays take a lot of damage. Both of them live for now. Wow, that's a great snipe by Neeb, but he still has to be very careful. You don't want to go too crazy. Probably want to regenerate a couple of those shields on your Void Rays. What an awkward game so far, Pig.
Yeah, Neeb's still actually up 5 workers, but because he's on one base, that doesn't really mean a lot. The income, of course, will be almost identical for both players. The probe here has just been guarding this hedge all game long. I think keeping that Oracle alive is actually super important, and even warping in a pair of Adepts on the low ground, going to be looking to dive into that main base and potentially massacre the probe line.
Yep, I like this. You want to get something done, right, if your name is Neeb here, and obviously you want to see what's happening in that main base as well. You don't want to lose the Oracle. He could potentially dive on top of that sentry. Is he gonna let it finish up? Not yet, but maybe when he has 4 Adepts he will. Let's see how much damage Neeb can get done here. 2 Stalkers take a long time to kill 2 Adepts.
Yeah, Shades in is going to need to sync up these shots perfectly. He's done it on the first one. The second probe does fall, and at the same time breaks down the ramp. The Void Ray's on overcharge, dishing out the hurt on these Stalkers. Blink is not done yet. This is a massacre. Neeb completely routing MaNa's army. MaNa, with the panic recall, is going to save a few of those Stalkers.
MaNa should not have tried to take that fight. After getting multiple defensive weapons and having a faster expand, as Neeb is somehow expanding on the low ground, there was... That was, wow, the double X.
Double Nexus, Roddy.
But there was no need for MaNa to take that fight. He didn't even have Blink yet. You don't want to fight 3 Void Rays with Prismatic Alignment activated if you don't have Blink. I think MaNa overstayed his welcome there a little bit.
Yeah, it's the power of that two-pronged move, you know, get him to focus on the Adepts, bust down the ramp. MaNa instinctively tried to take the fight, and it turned out to be a very bad call.
Okay.
But that's a dangerous Stalker count out there, Roddy.
Yeah, Neeb has to be very careful as well. His Void Rays are already a little bit bruised up, so that means a couple of them are going to get picked off immediately. And Blink is done now, so that means that MaNa has all the micro potential in the world. I didn't like this move out at all, and Neeb is going to pay the price and lose a lot of units there.
I killed so many Stalkers. He sensed weakness. He thought he could get across the map. But MaNa instantly had warped in 2 more rounds of Stalkers, pounces on that, and the Seesaw is in full action. We're now seeing MaNa with the scarier, more mobile army. Neeb is up a couple of workers. He's trying to get out Immortals. He's gone for that greedy third Nexus. He's got so little firepower here.
Ooh, that's a very risky Blink because a lot of those Stalkers are very low on HP. But that's a bad warp in as well. Good focus fire there by MaNa. He gets multiple Stalkers very quickly. And now he's actually trading against these Adepts as well. He's still not mining, by the way, from the natural, but MaNa needs to fix it. Okay, now he fixed it. That's good.
Daddy Immortal does start to save the day there at the natural, but it's the only piece of firepower Neeb's got. That Nexus in the open, he's going to try to go down to defend it. I don't think you can get away with that. Neeb is going to try to dive into the mineral line. This Oracle left over from the early game continuing to be a thorn in MaNa's side, but he rips it out, tears down that Oracle, and he's going to get the third base at the same time.
What a typical MaNa series so far, right? It's scrappy, it's hectic, it's all over the place. These builds are weird. That's a risky place to warp in, by the way. If the rocks get knocked down, you're going to end up losing your sentries. But MaNa goes for the offensive triple sentry. MaNa is always so eager to just attack, and finish the game. Going up a ramp against 2 Immortals, I don't know if I like this for MaNa. I feel like MaNa just got a couple of really good trades. He got there, he taken care of the Void Rays, he picked up the Oracle. Why not take it a little easier? Why not get charged? Why not just build up an economy?
I'm with you on that one, Kevin. I'd love to see it. Kind of like maybe look for the ambush here with the Force Fields and the Blink Stalkers. You have the more nimble army. But he's cut probes, he's adding gateways. MaNa is looking to be very aggressive.
I actually think he might try to put a couple sentries in a Warp Prism pick. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think that this is MaNa's play. And then it makes a little bit of sense, right? I think he's going to try to force field Neeb out of his main base.
He's bringing the 2012 plays, man. He's going full Wings of Liberty on this one. He's like, hey, how about I blink up your ramp and force field you out of your own main base? He's looking for it, but he misblinks. 4 Stalkers get killed on the low ground. The force field is good. Is this going to be enough Stalkers to make it worthwhile? I think it is. I don't know how Neeb can answer this.
Neeb could recall, and that's exactly what he does. But then MaNa can also go to the low ground. This is going to be so awkward.
Kevin, I can't believe it. He pulled it off. He's just gone to the low ground. MaNa snipes down Neeb's Warp Prism. That was his only way of getting to the low ground. There's still enough energy for one more force field. Can MaNa do it? He doesn't get the force field down in time. Neeb starting to break down this ramp, but it's just 2 Immortals and a couple of sentries. MaNa is going to start to focus fire them down. A lot of his Stalkers not able to get past that pylon. They're stuck behind each other. He blinks on top, gets 1 Immortal, but the Stalkers are almost all gone.
The final Immortal goes down as well. MaNa's going to warp in a couple of additional units. Neeb is trying desperately to get his final defensive warp in, but the Stalker gets picked off immediately. And with that Prism and with Blink, there is so much micro here for MaNa. GG. The Polish Protoss takes a 2-0 lead here over the American defending champion of WCS Austin.
And what style. That is a old one right there, that move. That's something we saw a lot of in Heart of the Swarm, a lot in Wings of Liberty, not so much in Legacy of the Void. But that amazing bait and switch, goes for the main, says, oh, you're going to recall? Guess what? I've got 5 seconds, rotates his entire army to the low ground. And MaNa just outpacing Neeb there. A huge, huge momentum swing, which we didn't see this one coming. 2-0 lead to MaNa?
I did not see this coming at all. And the games are it's so funny because it really feels like both players have like 2 or 3 opportunities in each game to win it. Like Neeb has a fantastic hold in the end when after he lost the Nexus, but you know, you said it, the distraction maneuver with the Adepts in the main base, then he jumped on top of the Stalkers. That was a great trade. At that point, you can probably just sit back and try to focus on your own expanding. He moved out while he was double expanding with 3 Void Rays that were bruised up, and he just ran into like 14 Blink Stalkers. And at that point, he's like, oh my goodness, why did I move out exactly when I'm dropping 2 Nexus on my side of the map?
You know, trying to do a little bit too much at once. We've all been there. where you just get caught out trying to grab a little bit too much of an edge in the game. MaNa, quick to pounce on that one with the Stalkers. He saw those Void Rays in the open. He didn't hesitate for a second. He knew Christmas had come early. Those Void Rays, when they're behind Guardian Shield, they got an Immortal or something on the ground. You can't blink on that, but catching him in the open, beautiful opportunity for MaNa.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Like, Void Rays are very powerful even in PvP, but they're very clumsy units. If they're exposed, they're terrible. They just die like flies. But like you said, you get a Guardian Shield, you get a couple Zealots on the ground, you get an Immortal or two in the mix, then try to gun down those Void Rays. That is a completely different ball game. It's a very hectic and scrappy series so far, and I truly feel that MaNa is like dragging Neeb down into the trenches. Like, let's play really sloppy and crazy and gung-ho, and let's just attack each other all the time. And I feel that Neeb is probably a lot better if the games chill out a little bit. If Neeb just posts himself as that strong defensive Protoss, I really think that's what he needs to do to come back into this series.
We're gonna have to find out, can he stabilize? Can he get the ball moving back in his direction? Up here in the top left-hand side of Acid Plant, the American player representing Ting, he is Neeb.
That sign was upside down, Pig. Over here on the right bottom side of Acid Plant, the man that's representing Team Liquid. Still, after all these years, he came out strong so far, but he needs one more win. Hailing from Poland, it's MaNa.
Did make one top 16 finish last year, but if he can go through here, it will be a big step up, making it to that top 8. Always a huge opportunity. I like what you said before, Kevin. He's kind of dragging Neeb down to his level, and that's the last time we saw Neeb have a bit of weakness, right? It was in those Challenger finals against Master, where it was like just a series of crazy proxies, and it was that same sort of kind of Neeb we saw where he's like in these scrappy games, and we saw him kind of start to build Nexi like in the middle of Eastwatch, which made like this like strategic choice, which in isolation made no sense. And he kind of came out on top of that series barely, but I think it definitely exposed that in these crazy games, Neeb definitely not as experienced. Does make a few more mistakes.
You don't have to be an expert to understand that moving out while you're double expanding and you're kind of even economically and you don't have an untouchable army is simply not a good move. And Neeb will know that. And Neeb, it's funny by the way, because I think one of the most famous Void Ray move outs that Neeb ever had was in Austin 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago already? 2 years ago in the final against Hydra. Do you remember? It was like game 6 on
yes.
Invader, and he was like coming back and everyone was like, yeah! And then he flew his Void Rays into a bunch of Hydras and everyone was like, no, why did you do that? You know, you're about to win. And this was almost identical. It's just there was no need for Neeb to move out there. Yeah. This series has been crazy so far. This time it's MaNa going for the Stargate. So MaNa is switching things up a little bit. And I think that Neeb is going to be more than happy to just open up with a couple Stalkers, expand, get a Twilight console going, get some map vision going, and just take the game from there, step by step. Don't play these crazy tug of war back and forth games. That's what MaNa wants to do, Neeb. That's not where you excel.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that one. And with the fastest Stargate, a nice little edge there for MaNa in that tech. Neeb, of course, going for the faster expand, and it's going to be Phoenix first. I think when you've got the Stargate advantage, that is a brilliant choice.
And I think MaNa's going to go 3 gates, by the way. I think.
Is he going to pull out a Roddy build?
Yeah, I think this is Chicky Roddy build, indeed, Pig. I think he's just going to get an extra gateway, and I think he's just going to try to win with a couple of gateway units and a few offensive Phoenixes. These adepts will not shade into the main base. Now, MaNa doesn't know yet that he's indeed going up against his target as well. Is this going to be a gateway?
Oh wow.
Wow.
A huge commitment on one base. MaNa not planning to expand. Neeb not able to scout just yet. His hallucination will be heading out in about 10 seconds when he gets that energy on that sentry. There we go. And the Phoenix catches it. Oh, disaster. He has no information on where MaNa's economy is. Neeb, you're down 2 games. You've got to play so safe in this scenario. Does he realize it? He's still probing. He's only got 1 shield battery. He's not building gateway units right now, Kevin.
This is so tough though for Neeb, because what do you do if your opponent is playing Phoenix Expand? You don't want to not build probes and then lose a couple probes, and then you have nothing to fall back on. So Neeb is, oh my goodness, he was supply blocked as well. He tried to build a second Phoenix. This is looking really rough. Neeb is going to need a miraculous hold because he's going to be down in Phoenixes. Does he have a single battery on the low ground there?
Only one.
He's already
going
taking
for
that gas.
Oh, he thinks this is an air war. He has
Yeah.
no idea. The one base all in attack about to come in. 3 Phoenix, 5 Stalkers, and 2 Adepts. MaNa wants to go through to that round of 8. Neeb going to come down here desperately trying to fight. The shield battery helping out in the Phoenix war, but one of his Phoenix already falling. The Pro Pool just isn't enough.
There is simply no units here for Neeb, and our Polish Protoss has done it. MaNa will advance to the quarterfinals after taking out the defending champion of WCS Austin 3-0, Pig.
So decisive. This is the MaNa that his fans love seeing out here on this stage, bringing out such decisive play and played the series to perfection as well. Bringing out that build on that map in the final game there, that was a perfect piece of decision making.
And the way he hit it as well, right? The Stalker's denying the probe. His Phoenix denying the hallucination scout from Neeb as well. Neeb had no idea that this was coming. MaNa hyper-aggressive throughout the entire series. I think especially in game 1, he showed some fantastic things.
Yep, let's hear from the man himself. MaNa is down there on the stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, MaNa. Not only did you just advance here with a 3-0, I mean, we saw so many 3-0s today, but I don't think anyone would have predicted that we would see it here. I mean, what happened?
I think Neeb was a little bit stubborn. He wanted to go for macro because he's better at the macro. And I played a lot of mind games in PvP. Not sure if people can recognize that, but PvP is very, very tricky and kind of random in the beginning of the match. But yeah, he kept on going for macro while being aggressive at the same time. And I always wanted to control the game for my side, and yeah, it worked out well.
And I want to talk about the significance of you moving on to the quarterfinals, because it's been a few years. I think the last time that you were there, it was 2015 or something like that. So, I mean, how important is this placing for you?
Since the beginning of this year, I've been playing really fucking hard.
Family show.
So I am really proud of myself that I came back to this stage, to top 8. It's a small step forward. I'm looking for more, but to see the beginning right here, it's just amazing feeling.
Amazing indeed. I'm sure the Liquid fans are ecstatic to see it. And of course, in the quarterfinal match, it's going to be a Zerg opponent. It's going to be either Stefano or Snoot. So where are you feeling on that? Stefano because maybe it could be easier, or Snoot because he's your teammate?
I mean, if it's going to be Stefano, we might as well go back to 2012. If it's Snoot, it's actually 2012 as well, so we're pretty much back in time in this top 8. I think Snoot and Stefano, they played a lot in the past, but I'm not sure about their recent results. I have faith in Snoot's ZVZ, he's really good at it. But if it's going to be either Snoot or Stefano, I'm going to do my best, and well, hopefully I can advance it forward. Obviously, I wouldn't want a team kill, but on the other hand, I want another Team Liquid in the top 8, so it's going to be fine for me either way.
Sounds great. It's so great to see you back in the top 8. Congratulations, MaNa. We'll see you in just a little bit. Adanius, back to you.
Phenomenal performance by MaNa, saying how much he's been practicing lately, and it shows in spades, defeating the American region champion and awing the audience.
Wow.
That was like an ow, though. I was like, oh. What?
Man, it's so cool to see for MaNa. Obviously, my NA heart bleeds a little bit right now for Neeb, especially since NA has really been having a hard time in that round of 16. But man, it's also hard not to cheer for MaNa. He's such a passionate guy. He puts so much of his emotion, his life into StarCraft, and you can see it whenever he's on stage or if he's on his stream and everything, talking about stuff. So you just got to feel for him. You got to be feeling happy.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I think it's an amazing upset, and the way he did it's pretty crazy as well. 3-0, like Sue was saying, it's. Maybe he beats Neeb, but to beat him the way he did, where in all 3 games, it was kind of Neeb coming back to make it close, because it was always MaNa ahead even. He dominated. It was just amazing performance.
Yeah, really wild series. And then that last game, just the build, the way that he set himself up, he was not ready for it, got completely wrecked.
And it was the mind games you were talking, or he was talking about before, where it's just trying to fake out and say, like, yeah, I got the pile on the low ground. This is natural here and everything. Neeb taking a while to actually find things out and just denying the scouting repeatedly. He did an excellent job with that. And it's almost just, it goes back to what I was saying before, where he says, oh yeah, you know, my PvP, oh man, I keep losing all these PvPs and everything. I'm like, but dude, you're winning. You're really good at PvP, man. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, really nuts series. We do have an updated
bracket to catch y'all up to speed as we are swiftly making our way through this round of 16. A lot of sweeps, and this is another one. MaNa will play the winner of Stefano versus Snoot. That's our next series, and then we've got a Laser TLO and Bly versus Special. That means we only have one more non-European player left in the tournament. Special has everybody else's hopes riding on his back. That's going to be a lot of pressure for him moving forward.
Yeah, we haven't seen him play yet on this main stage. It'll be kind of fun to see what form he's in. I know that he battled a Laser earlier in this tournament and actually got bopped a little bit there, but we've seen some of that back and forth where players have come back and kind of sent the other guy down. So it'll be fun. Nice way to end the day.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Our next series then coming up is going to be Snoot versus Stefano here at the World Championship Series, Austin. We'll be back in just a few.